Hey there, welcome to That Dang Dad. My name is Phil, and tonight I want to talk about marketing, and specifically why us bleeding heart pinko social justice druids might sometimes be doing it badly. My degree is in management and marketing, and until recently I was part of a digital marketing team that was generating campaigns that won business from multi-billion-dollar corporations all across the United States. Now, I know many anti-capitalists are suspicious about marketers, and you should be. Marketers broadly have perfected every dirty trick in the book to steal attention and compel people to buy things that they don't want in order to generate profits for their corporate overlords. That said, marketing in and of itself is not inherently evil. It's just a tool. It's just the art of persuasion, and specifically uniting people who need something with a solution to their problem. And that can absolutely be done without exploitation or chicanery. So tonight, I'm going to teach you some marketing tips and tricks, and I'm going to offer my theory on why liberation-minded people sometimes have a tough time with this stuff. Now, this video is intended only for people who want to build a kinder, more inclusive world, one free from extractive capitalism and unjust hierarchies. So those of you who want to build higher walls and thicker cages and hoard more wealth or exclude more people, you're not allowed to watch this one. Honor system people. So any of you chuds out there, just go ahead and drag this window to the recycle bin on your desktop, click close forever, and unplug your PC. Cody, Raymond, Tammy, I see you. You're making everyone wait. Go on. Okay. Good. Let's move on. The style of marketing I practiced at work is called inbound marketing, and it was developed in contrast to outbound marketing. With outbound, the marketer pushes their message out to their audience, typically by interrupting them. Think TV commercials or telemarketing. In outbound, you bombard your audience with messages, hoping that when they next need to buy your type of product, your brand is stuck in their brain. Inbound works the opposite way. In inbound, you create lots of content about your product that lays in wait in the form of blogs, videos, research papers, and so on. You do this in the hopes that when your audience is researching a problem, your content pops up and guides them either to a solution that establishes you as an expert, or to your product, which hopefully results in a sale. When inbound marketing is done well, it's very respectful of the customer's agency and time. The inbound marketer exchanges expertise for attention. Inbound marketers operate under the assumption that if you respect your audience and give them truthful information that they're looking for, they will reward you with a sale at some point. I discussed this briefly in a previous video, but let's dive a little deeper. In order to effectively capture an audience's attention, inbound marketers have to be very good at understanding their ideal customer's journey. See, not every potential customer is ready to buy today. So if your content only focuses on closing a sale right away, you'll miss out on prospects who are earlier in their buyer's journey. To illustrate this, I'm going to show you a company with a really sophisticated inbound strategy. I just want to say up front that I'm not affiliated with this company. I'm not endorsing their products or their company behavior. This is not buzz marketing or anything sneaky like that. But anyway, the company I'm talking about is Colgate. What does Colgate want to do? They want to sell you toothpaste, mouthwash, and other dental accoutrements. They advertise these products through commercials, newspaper inserts, and flashy packaging at the store, hoping they'll be top of mind when you next need to buy more toothpaste. However, they don't just hope and pray that you saw a commercial or didn't throw away the ad pages of the newspaper. They have built a fairly sophisticated content library on numerous oral health topics. Everything from recognizing the symptoms of gum disease to how to floss to an explanation of dental x-rays. Why is Colgate explaining how a dental x-ray works when, as far as I can tell, they don't sell x-rays? Easy. Colgate wants to be your dental expert. They don't just want to reach you when you need floss. They want to reach you when you don't know you need floss yet. They want to reach you when you're just researching what might happen to you at the dentist. They want you to see them as the authority on what's going on in your food hole, so they're giving away lots of expertise for free. They're hoping that if they bring you accurate, helpful research, you'll be more likely to buy their solutions. Inbound is pretty cheap to implement, and it works really well when taken seriously. The reason is because inbound puts the power with the customer. The customer dictates the pace of the relationship. If I'm not interested in toothpaste or dental topics right now, Colgate's gum disease library isn't going to force itself in front of me and piss me off. But if my poor little tooth garden is swollen and hurting, and Colgate comes in with a solution that actually helps relieve all that pain, that's going to generate some appreciation and maybe even some loyalty. The last part of inbound methodology, and one of its most recent innovations, is the awareness that most businesses don't want a relationship to terminate the minute a sale happens. Part of effective marketing is delighting the customer after you've closed the sale. This is how you generate word-of-mouth recommendations and turn customers into evangelists. Post-sale delight can be through a generous returns policy, compassionate customer support, even throwing in little freebies with an order. It's different for every business, but it comes from the same principle all marketers know. It's much easier to keep a customer than it is to win a new one. So once you win someone over, it's imperative that you deepen that relationship so that it lasts for a long time. You may not want to think of it this way, but ideology is a product you're selling too. There are people all around your community who are in a variety of relationships with the status quo. From people who benefit from it and love that, to people who don't notice the status quo, to people that are harmed by the status quo but think it's benefiting them. If your goal is to show people why the system is harmful and to get them to take steps to oppose that system, you're facing the exact same challenge that any marketer is facing at any business in the world. How do I get people to see me, care about my message, trust me, and make a decision that I want them to make? This doesn't mean that we have to lie or downplay our beliefs or anything like that. I'm not even talking about worrying about optics or palatability right now. What I'm suggesting is that if you have an idea that you want to persuade lots of people to engage with, you have to think in terms of the buyer's journey. Ineffective marketers always want to control the conversation and talk about what they think is important about their product. Effective marketers do much more listening and empathizing and want to understand the questions and concerns of their audience so they can meet the audience where they are. I'm not suggesting that we sit down with Trump voters in a Midwestern Waffle House so we can hear them out. I'm just saying that being an effective marketer means we do have to have some understanding of our target audience, their fears, concerns, pain points, and their lexicon. For example, you and I might be very passionate about the dangers of commodification, meaning the ways in which capitalism has transformed relationships that used to be non-commercial into relationships of buying and selling. As examples of that, we might want to explain that, say, the privatization of government services like a power grid results in the deadly exploitation that occurred during the 2021 Texas winter storm. Or we might discuss how scientific inquiry has been commercialized such that the avenues of innovation that aren't deemed profitable by the capital-owning class struggle to find funding, such as, COVID vaccines pre-2020. Depending on our target audience, effective marketing might mean that we don't start with the word commodification. Like, maybe we don't start with a blog titled, "How Commodification is Wrecking Your Shit." Because what if our target audience doesn't know what commodification is? If we're trying to win hearts and minds, perhaps a different title can convey the same idea in a way that doesn't rely on jargon. Like, why Texas's corporate-run power grid resulted in $10,000 power bills and dozens of dead Texans. Or consider this, many people believe that the concept of private property should eventually be abolished. But your target audience might hear that and think, oh, so in your perfect world, I have to share a toothbrush with the commune? We're all just going to use the same big pile of underwear? Tony gets to put all his Mumford & Sons MP3s on my Zune next to all my Sonata Arctica tracks? Of course, in the Succulent Manifesto, Marx and Engels said, We communists have been reproached with the desire of abolishing the right of personally acquiring property as the fruit of a man's own labor. Hard-won, self-acquired, self-earned property. Do you mean the property of the petty artisan or the small peasant? A form of property that has preceded the bourgeois form? There's no need to abolish that. The development of industry has to a great extent already destroyed it, and is still destroying it daily. Property, in its present form, is based on the antagonism of capital and wage labor. Meaning, we know private property is different from personal property, but not everyone has a handle on that. So again, depending on your target audience, you might not want to go with a video essay titled, "Private Property Sucks," and instead maybe something like, "You own less so your boss can own more, and it gets worse every year." This is not to say that no one should ever create jargony content, only that you should make sure that what you create starts from your target audience's perspective, not your own. Your target audience may actually be young leftists whose life experience has led them to reject capitalism, who are hungry for the theory and the jargon. Just make sure that you know that up front before you start. And finally, let's go back to that final insight of Inbound. Preserving relationships is just as important as winning a new convert. Radical liberatory politics is all about community and relationships, so make sure you're taking care of the newbies. This has less to do with content and more to do with support, so be thinking about ways you can create spaces for newbies to get engaged, get educated, and get some love from their comrades. Spaces where they're allowed to be a little messy, a little clumsy, and a little ignorant. We shouldn't tolerate abusive behavior. I'm just saying that the more comfortable people feel asking tough or confusing questions, the more likely you'll be to delight them with the new community that they've joined. If you're thinking of creating content, Tammy, goddammit, what did I tell you? You think I can't see you slink back in here? Go on, get. If you're thinking of creating content, or you're a seasoned pro looking to up your game, here are some marketing practices you might find applicable. Not everything in marketing maps one-to-one onto organizing and radicalizing people, so take what you find useful and discard what you don't. If you're just starting out, I recommend that you create a few buyer personas to keep in mind. To quote HubSpot, who literally wrote the book on Inbound, a buyer persona is a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer based on market research and real data about your existing customers. When creating your buyer personas, consider including customer demographics, behavior patterns, motivations, and goals. The more detailed you are, the better. If you're encountering this concept for the first time, I know what you're going to say. But I want my content to appeal to everyone. You sweet summer child, of course you do. We all do. But it's not possible. A video that is going to persuade a Brooklyn Gen Zer thinking of joining the DSA is probably not going to persuade the boomer small business owner afraid of a higher minimum wage. So as you write scripts or blogs or plan out TikToks or whatever, consider who you want to engage with your work. What kind of job do they have? How old are they? Do they live downtown or in the burbs? What are their goals, personally or professionally? What are they afraid of? What are they frustrated by? What would their common objections be towards your way of thinking? What does your idea have to offer them? How does it solve their problems or meet their needs? And personas don't just help you decide what you talk about, they can also help you decide where you talk about it. For example, if you want to reach Gen Z, you should be thinking about how you can use TikTok and Twitch. If you want to target boomers, you should be thinking about Facebook and golf courses. If you're really interested in talking to neo-Nazis, get on Gab or Parler. Or set up an account on Snapchat to reach nobody. Anyway, I'll include a HubSpot persona template in the video description that you can play around with. And again, I don't work for HubSpot, I'm not endorsing HubSpot, they just have a lot of material on how to build good marketing campaigns, and I think some of you might find it useful. The next technique is one for the seasoned creators out there, but I think newbies can also benefit from it. It's called content mapping. In short, content mapping is a process where you take your buyer personas and you link them up to your buyer's journey or to a customer life cycle, and you make sure that you have content for each intersection. Essentially, you're evaluating your content for who it appeals to and when it appeals to them, and making sure that there aren't any gaps. For example, let's say you want to encourage people in their early 20s working shit jobs in small Midwestern towns to join the IWW. You have a pretty solid persona there, so let's think about 3 stages in a customer life cycle: awareness, consideration, and decision. People in the awareness stage have realized a symptom of a problem, but haven't necessarily named or defined the problem yet. So your video essay titled, "If you're flipping burgers, you're being vastly underpaid," might speak to someone who feels exhausted and exploited by their job, but just thinks that's the way it is in an entry-level job. And maybe you have another video essay titled, "The IWW, How Joining One Big Union Instantly Increases Your Leverage." Great, that appeals to someone trying to decide between joining, say, the DSA or the IWW. Content mapping will help you realize that you're missing an essay targeting your persona in the consideration stage, meaning someone who has clearly defined their problem but has not yet come up with a solution strategy yet. This will help you focus your attention on a script that speaks directly to that person at that stage. Maybe a video like, "Why your boss is terrified you and your coworkers might work together," or "Debunking the myth that labor unions are no longer necessary." Again, I'll include a link to a content mapping handout that you may or may not find useful. There are tons of other marketing techniques and variations on the ones I've already discussed, but I don't want you to get too bogged down in technique tonight. I only want to whet your appetite for the kinds of practices that the highly paid experts are using. Some companies are using these techniques to make the world a worse place. So let's steal them and use them to make a better place.
One thing I forgot to put in my script. Disabled access is hugely important in organizing. If your target audience can't read, or hear, or parse your message, they might not just miss it. They might assume your movement won't make space to include them. Accessibility isn't a nice to have, it's a requirement to be an effective communicator.
I imagine there are some of you who've watched this far who are a little uncomfortable with all of this. It sounds very corporate, very capitalist, maybe even inauthentic in some way, manipulative. As I've made my journey from right-wing chud to Marxist stud, I've noticed a certain vibe in radical communities that I think comes from a good place, but is sometimes counterproductive to our goals. Those of us opposed to capitalism, to exploitation, to unjust hierarchies, we believe the things we do because we care about human life and human well-being, communities thriving, racial and economic justice, and the health of our planet. I mean, these are the highest of stakes, right? We look out at an extractive system built on plunder, built on hoarding as much wealth as possible until the earth slides into environmental collapse, built on denying food and housing and medical care to the poor. We look at all that and we say, holy shit, this has got to stop. You're literally killing us. And that's not hyperbole. All of us in radical circles know people who have died from state violence, preventable medical issues, or a mental illness that they couldn't afford to treat. So this altruistic line of thinking comes from the very best parts of us, but makes it very hard to want to just play the game, to want to compete within the system, or to tolerate people who aren't on board. After all, if I say, I support universal healthcare because I don't believe anybody should die just because they're poor, anyone who disagrees with me even a little is basically advocating for millions of unnecessary deaths. That's monstrous. This is why I think that many radical communities sometimes struggle to build what I would consider to be a well-rounded content strategy. Material that would fit much earlier in the buyer's journey can feel like it's insufficiently liberatory, like it's still propping up a toxic system. You know, an essay about why the minimum wage is too low feels like it's ceding too much ground if you believe that wage labor should be abolished. A video advocating for stricter hiring standards for police officers feels like a waste of time if you think the entire prison industrial complex needs to be abolished. And honestly, that's valid. Something that I really love about radical content is that it very often comes from a place of passion and conviction. So I don't blame many radical communities for not feeling passionate about baby steps and half measures. That said, I think that those of us fighting for a better world have to give a lot of thought towards building on-ramps for people coming from much different places than us. And like I said above, this doesn't have to mean watering down the message or explicitly advocating for incrementalism. It simply means that we can't take for granted a shared lexicon, shared experiences, or even shared values. The other aspect of inbound marketing in particular that I think doesn't gel well with radical politics is that inbound is playing the long game. I mean, it involves building a vast network of content that sits and gathers views and search engine credibility and shares slowly over time. It can take Google as long as 6 months to index certain web pages and blog posts, so many of the fruits of an inbound strategy don't really start to plump up until years later. I think that can be very frustrating for people who see climate catastrophe and a resurgence of fascism knocking on our door right now. And you're right, there's work to be done today. There's injustice and suffering that needs attention right now. Of course we have to be loud and rowdy about these things. I guess I'm just saying, if you come across an essay, a video, a book, or a conversation that doesn't share your same sense of urgency, maybe show it some grace if it's something that can be used to bring new hearts and minds into the cause over time. I'll leave you with an anecdote. When I was coming up in conservative evangelicalism, I was very into philosophy, except it was philosophers like Thomas Aquinas, Francis Schaeffer, C.S. Lewis, G.K. Chesterton. Fuck you, St. Augustine, you Manichaean motherfucker. As I started to grow away from the church, I started to give attention to other philosophers, and one day I came across this video by this strange, sniffling man named Slavoj Žižek. He was standing in a trash dump and he was talking about ecology in a way I had never heard before. He claimed to be a Marxist, which I'd been trained to hate, but he was so weird that I kind of let my guard down and just listened to him talk. Then I watched a documentary where he started talking about classic films in a very philosophical way, and as a film nerd myself, I was just mesmerized. And then the blessed YouTube algorithm was like, oh, you like this dude? You might like this other channel too called Philosophy Tube. And suddenly, I'd been seduced into a world of ideas that I would have never considered years prior. My point is that you never know what random project might hit the right person at the right time and create a new comrade. If you've made it to the end of this video, I presume that you're somebody who cares about building a better world, and I suspect that you have some ideas about how to do that. My message to you is that this movement needs voices and talents on all ends of the spectrum, at all points in the buyer's journey. We need the nerds and the theory heads. We need the comedians and the goofballs. We need game streamers and film critics. We need musicians and artists. And we definitely need the relationship builders, the good listeners, the Discord moderators, and the discourse mediators. To say nothing of the people in the real world doing the hard work of real-life organizing, feeding the hungry, and protecting their community. I said this in my last video and I meant it. I don't know what your talent is. I just know that you have something that can help. You have a place in the movement, and trust me when I tell you from experience, there are no unimportant places in a movement. What you bring to the table is necessary, and I'm really proud to have you here by my side. Anyway, what do you think? What do you bring to the table? Where do you fit into the strategy? Where do you want to fit into the strategy? I have one of the best comment sections on YouTube, period, so I think you should all get hooked up with each other down there and raise some hell. If you have time, please drop kick that like button and subscribe if you haven't, and share this video with people that you think might find it useful. As for me, I must return to my burrow to plot my next move. Thank you all for spending time with me tonight. I hope to see you on the next one. Good night.